And I look forward to this so much. I can't wait to just spend that next half hour with you talking about news and updates for Power Platform and not think about anything else. It's almost like meditation. It's perfect.
Yes. Welcome to the Power Platform Boost therapy session. We are your hosts today. Calm your mind. Take in all these new features. That's going to make your life easy and all these crazy projects that we sign up for. And welcome, everyone, to the Power Platform Boost podcast, your weekly source of news and updates from the world of the Power Platform and the Microsoft community with your host, Nick Dolman and Ulrika Ackerbeck.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, Ulrika. How's it going?
It's going pretty well. What about you?
Good. I'm back in Canada. It's Thanksgiving. I'm technically on holiday today, but I've been meetings from literally the moment I rolled out of bed this morning. That's what happens when you work on international projects and have international friends and things like that. You need to chat with and everything. So all good.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I think actually we've both had a bit of a roller coaster of a day today so far. It doesn't seem like it's quieting down either. But here we are in the middle of chaos recording a podcast because that's what we do. And I look forward to this so much. I can't wait to just spend that next half hour with you talking about news and updates for Power Platform and not think about anything else. It's almost like meditation. It's perfect.
Yes. Welcome to the Power Platform Boost therapy session. We are your hosts today. Calm your mind. Take in all these new features. That's going to make your life easy and all these crazy projects that we sign up for and get in. But overall, I mean, as much as it is kind of chaotic with the projects we're working on now, I absolutely still love it. We're doing really cool stuff, learning tons of things. Yes, go through the challenges. And if you work with a great team, it's good. It's good to, ready to infuse this song into everybody's head. It's like that Lego movie song. Everything is awesome, especially when you're part of the team.
I wonder if the royalties, if we could actually embed that into the podcast, because I love that song and it sticks to your head so easily.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just get on it because we have a bunch of stuff. We had to actually prune it this time to get stuff out. And I'm going to go with my little note at the top. I really don't know if I can actually add a link to this. I'll see what I can do. But I have been seeing Mark Smith's face on my Instagram feed a lot lately. And I love Mark. Mark's a good friend of mine. But I think I'm not sure that we're that close that I'm comfortable with him being right there in my face. Very in your face, but the content is absolutely gold. And of course, I love Mark. It's all good. So if you are looking at upping your skills as a consultant or going independent and you're wondering what kind of tools to use or how to think about certain things, I really highly recommend following Mark Smith on Instagram because those reels or shorts or whatever they're called this week, it's gold. So yeah, there you go. I'll try to find a link to his profile maybe and put that in the show notes.
Yeah. And I think all of this really and let's just call it for what it is. It's probably a little bit of subtle advertising for the 90-day mentoring challenge. Now, again, this is an unsolicited plug. Mark's not paying us or anything like that, but I went through the 90-day mentoring challenge earlier on this year, and I highly recommend it for anybody who wants to be more involved in community or wants to grow their career with their current Microsoft partner that they're working for or in a customer, or if you want to do a career change or just day-to-day project stuff or whatever. There's so much good content in there. And Mark's also a master at building a nice little communities around this too. So there's a 90-day WhatsApp group that I'm on every day, just talking with people, encouraging them. People are saying, here's what I'm doing now, or hey, I finally submitted my first session to an event and I'm going to be speaking. And that's the kind of stuff that I love to see. people kind of getting out there and moving along. So that's sort of my, So sign up for so here's my advice. I said, sign up for the 90-day mentoring challenge. Tell them that the Power Platform Boost podcast sent you.
Yes.
And Mark, I will maybe show up at your place someday and, take advantage of your bar in terms of payback. So
maybe we'll get some money out of Mark still. So who knows?
Maybe, yeah.
Perfect.
Cool.
Great. Another thing we noticed this week, or last week, I'm sorry, is actually a follow-up of something we talked about last time. So Jukka posted a post on LinkedIn. This is yet another one of these posts on LinkedIn. That's kind of the primary source of this news about the Power Platform admin environment capacity allocation news that is coming. So all Power Platform admins needs to know that there's a change coming. There's some add-ons to the admin side of what you can do in terms of allocating resources between different environments, but also in the environment itself. In terms of logging and all the other stuff. So, and when Jukka posted this, he also mentioned another post that we talked about last week, but also that there were no documentation. There's also another blog post that talks about all of this and what you can do in terms of allocation, monitoring, and alerts, but also the fact that it's not really as mature as what you can do through the COE starter kit yet. So kind of a lightweight version of that, but of course, more is probably coming. And also, by the time we recorded this, there is documentation to be found. So we'll put links to that in the show notes. I think that's only for the allocation part. But yeah, I'll put links to that as well.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome, especially for situations when you're trying to manage. You only have so much stuff, and right now it's a case of first come, first serve. If someone wants to build an app that's going to suck 5 gigabytes of Dataverse capacity, well, away they go. Now administrators can kind of begin to allocate that out a little bit and ration it out appropriately, and kind of go from that. So that's a great feature, probably I think well overdue. So glad to see that kind of roll out in the environments. So the next one I have, which is something really, really cool, and I want to call a big shout out to Chris Fernandez. I met Chris in person last week. The week before, I went to the Irish Power Platform Community Summit. It was a one-day event at Microsoft offices in Dublin. It was really cool. I got to meet a few other people from the community, and I know some of your listeners were there, saw me as well. And shout out to all you folks that's listening and gave us some good feedback. I really, really, really appreciate it. I actually had a couple of people buy me a beer, like in person.
Wasn't even there. You weren't there.
Anyways.
I got pictures. I'm all good.
So Chris Fernandez has something really cool. We've heard of the PCF gallery, right? Put on by Guido. Of course, that's a great place to download PCFs. Chris has started something, and we're going to have the link in the show note. It's just really simple. It's PFX gallery, because now in Canvas apps, you can build, components and controls, and then you can see the YAML view of these. And then you can take that YAML and, manipulate it or, put it in a source control or something. What Chris has done is brilliant. He's built, there's 4 controls. And of course, there's going to be, I think, facilities that you can upload your own controls as well. And you don't even need to really download anything. You can just take a look at the control, see the YAML code, just grab it, copy it, paste it directly into your Canvas app, and boom, you have this control running. It is so brilliant, and I'm really excited to see this. So definitely check that out. If you have cool controls that you're willing to share, throw them on up there. So Chris, amazing work. Really love it. It was just sort of, he was part of his presentation, and he goes, "Oh, and by the way, I created this new website." And I'm like, "Well, okay, that is cool."
That is so cool. Oh, I absolutely love that. That is community. That is open source. That is exactly what we're looking for. So great job, Chris. And I can't wait to dive in and see what you got going, and for other people to contribute. That's awesome. Perfect. And another community contributor that we've talked about lately that's helped us out, Benedikt Bergmann, finally released his blog post about the connection references and all that jazz. And I remember you telling me about a session that you went to. You actually talked about it on the recap for Nordic Summit as well, how you went to a session and someone talked about this, and you kind of asked them, is the things that we are running into, is that normal? And they're like, well, it's messy. Because it's
dirty work.
It's dirty work, that's for sure.
So yeah, I think it's funny because this is a case of I threw this in their notes and then I saw that you put it in as well. So this is kind of a co submission when we go through this stuff. But he basically goes through exactly what we talked about last week about setting up the connection, the Netflix references, also a little bit how to incorporate that into your ALM environment. Benedikt is doing a session on this at Directions EMEA, which is the first week of November. I'll be there presenting as well, but I saw that and I'm like, okay, cool. Not only do I get to read his post, and of course we chatted with him as well, but these are one of the sessions that I'm really, really looking forward to. And I'm really hoping it's not happening at the same time as mine. So I'll be able to take that in. I have to double check the schedule. So good work, Benedikt, and keep, it's kind of nice to know that we're not the only ones struggling with this, to be honest.
Yeah. And he points out, like you said, the things that we've been struggling with and how to deploy it right. And there's some small tips in there that you won't find in the documentation for sure. So yeah, dive in. And also this week, I listened to the Sprint Zero podcast episode with Neil Benson. So I just wanted to mention, because Neil has his own podcast. We've both been on the podcast a couple of times, the Amazing Applications podcast. He's done so much work for all of us in terms of, keeping up with Agile and how you work Agile with business applications, but also Power Platform stuff. And he was on their podcast, and they didn't really talk a lot about tech. It was mostly Neil's story into this technology, and also his background is very special. I don't think a lot of people come from where he's coming from. And also they talked a bit about some personal stuff. I mean, we all have our strengths and weaknesses, and how to learn what your strengths and weaknesses are, and how to be aware of it. And then that kind of helps you to look for people that will fulfill you in the place where you have a weakness. You find someone to work with that has that as a strength, and then be compatible in that way. It's very good. And then also having the opposite of the imposter syndrome. And I found that refreshing. Someone talking about the fact that, I don't have imposter syndrome. Actually, I would have probably, been good with a bit of it. It's don't get it. Don't feel it. I do me, and I do that. And I love being on stage and talking in front of people. And yeah, it was very refreshing. So thank you so much, guys, for putting up that episode, because I think it was needed. It made me smile. So very good.
Yeah, I love Matt and John's podcast. I mean, it's such a treat for the community and how they interact with people. And all right, so something that I saw was this week, Microsoft. This was something we saw in the release plans from our, it was part of the release notes about using Entra external ID in Power Pages. So this is something that we both saw was, pretty exciting, because there is local authentication. And like I like to say, friends don't let friends use local authentication in their Power Pages projects. It's old. It's the old forms based. There are some security issues with it, especially now. I have some ideas of how to potentially hack it to prove why you shouldn't use it, but that's a conversation for another day.
And it's also deprecated. It's deprecated. So don't use it.
Yeah, it's kind of deprecated.
It says in the documentation that it's deprecated. Doesn't mean it's going to be removed. That it also states, but it is deprecated, actually.
Yes. So, don't use internal, or don't use the forms based
local authentication. That's what it's called.
Thank you.
Don't use it. Done.
Don't use it. So, but you have other choices. Of course, there's always Azure AD B2C, which we've been using, but we've used before projects. There's Okta, which is like a third-party external provider, and there's other ones. Of course, a lot of the Nordic countries use like some bank ID that you can incorporate as well. So there's different ways to do this. Now, Microsoft has provided another way with the Entra external ID to use in Power Pages. This is kind of a whole new technology for external identification. It's not an upgrade from Azure B2C. That's my understanding. So now it's available for Power Pages. They wrote a blog post on that. I haven't actually tried it out yet. It was something I was planning on to do. Haven't got to it yet, but maybe by the time we record our next episode, I'll have a chance to play with it and can provide some feedback and maybe whip up another video or something.
Yeah, no, actually I was disappointed because I looked through it and then I also clicked to for 2 or 3 steps into the wizard to set it up, because back when it was Power Apps Portals, we had a wizard to set up Azure AD B2C. And actually what that wizard would do is it would create the Azure AD B2C tenant for you and give you the information that you wanted. So you didn't have to go into to Azure at all, really. Now, I was expecting if they release something like this and they have the code for that, then this would be that way too. But no. So there's a huge list. So the blog post kind of, first they kind of go through the steps in short that you have to go through. And there's a huge recipe for what you need to do in Azure to set it up. And that's one of the few things about a new Power Pages project that I'm dreading, because I've asked Azure people this, Azure developers, do you find this confusing? And they go, yeah, it's not just you, because the documentation is all over the place. So now it's another one. And you have to do all the work, just like you have to with Azure AD B2C. And then at the bottom, it kind of summarizes all the steps you have to do again. So it's a huge undertaking. And for someone who's not working in Azure every day and doesn't really understand how this works, and there's a token this and a return URL that, and then there's a permission in the user flow, and then you have different kinds of URLs with different parameters that you have to set, and a V2 and a TS, and I don't understand half of it. So when something breaks, I can follow the documentation from end to end and it works. But if something breaks, to troubleshoot and understand what's going wrong, I'm completely in the blank. So I was disappointed, to be honest. But, they still have the code somewhere for that wizard. Maybe we need to remind them that they have that wizard, because maybe at this point,
maybe I'll just sort of say, hey, where's the wizard? Like, what? Yeah.
And they go, what wizard? Just like I showed you. Did I show you the other day? No, I didn't. I still have a portal where I can get that inline editor to work.
Oh, the front side editing. You did show me that.
Yeah. So I mean, and that also, you told me, that someone in the team didn't really know that existed. So there's some things are lost in translation. That's why we're here. To be the carrier of the legacy information that everyone's forgotten about. That's why we're here, because to know the product inside out.
We know where the bodies are buried.
Yes. Okay. So enough Power Pages talk for this week. Let's move over to something completely different that I don't know anything about, and that is Purview. So I've been seeing Chris Huntingford and people in governance talking and raving about Purview for the last year. And it just, what is it? And I understand that. So I went to Chris Huntingford's session at Nordic Summit to understand a bit more about what it is. And it has to do with kind of monitoring. You can classify documents, you can classify topics or words, and it can scan your whole tenant for those words and things, and classify chats in Teams and transcripts and documents to kind of highlight people that are potentially risky people in your tenant. That's the short version of it. And so when I saw Marthe Moengen, and now that's a very Norwegian name, so that my Norwegian came through, because she's a Norwegian girl in our community. She is mostly Fabric Power BI, and now she's made a video series about how to set up Purview. And, Marthe, I absolutely love those videos. They're short, to the point. You have such a fun way of communicating and you're so light and easy and fun to watch. And it has a bit of that, I don't know, that glint in the eye. And it's so easy to consume. I watched all of them from end to end. And now I understand so much more of what Purview setup is like and what you have to consider and how to, and if I were to kind of ask for more videos, Marthe, it would be for you to explain more what it actually means in real life. So I see you going into a screen and you click here and you do that and you add this and you add that. But why? How does it translate to the real world? What scenarios do you go through? What use cases is it? What requirements do you solve by doing this? And what's the end game? I would love to see more of that kind of fluff around it. But, just shout out to Marthe and a great YouTube video series. Well done.
Yeah, it's perfect, because I went, like I was mentioning earlier, when I was in Ireland last week, Chris Huntingford did a session, a lot on AI, but again, he was shouting from the rooftops and pointing at people, learn Purview, you need to learn this. So we have our homework. And this is
We
great. These
do.
videos, great. I'm looking forward to checking out that video series. Like I love the short little snippets of information so I can digest it, very quickly. Now,
And also, she did something that you and I talked about, because she has her face in the video. And we talked about that before, because me too, if I made a YouTube video about the techie stuff, I wouldn't have my face in there. But I know that you've had comments and feedbacks on that as well, that people want to see, have more of your face in the video, thinking that it's, seeing but it works because you can see her facial expressions. You see what she gets excited about. It's something about the mimicking and the glimpse in the eye. And it's not about having that person's face in the video necessarily, but it's more about relating to the stuff. And I don't know, it brings it alive in a completely different way than if the videos did not include it, right? So it feels more personal. It feels like more of a personal connection. So I definitely do, because I watch videos like that. I also make notes for myself of what works and what doesn't work in YouTube videos, for instance, if I were to ever do my own content. And that was one of the things that really stuck out with me, is that, this is good. This is what you need. So yeah, definitely. And I know another one that does great YouTube content.
Yeah, our good friend Lisa Crosbie. And now she's put together, this isn't a short video, but she has the chapter markers so you can go back and follow along. She's done an amazing video on she calls it the complete Copilot Studio tutorial. And I saw her post it. Literally, I saw the post come up and I clicked on it. I don't know where, I think it was when I was traveling or something. I had some time. I started watching it, and again, there's no surprise. Lisa does amazing videos. It of course was her expressions. And again, she's there, she's waving her arms and she's getting excited about stuff. And it was just really good. And of course, I'm also extremely jealous. And because I'm seeing, literally, I saw her post it and I'm seeing the numbers, the views just spin as I'm watching this video. And I'm but to be fair, she's consistent. She does amazing work. And Lisa, this is a great video. And for me too, it starts you with the bare bone basics. You completely know nothing about Copilot Studio, and you're getting into the easy bits of the generative AI and kind of linking to websites and documents, and then going into the topics and the entities and manipulating your knowledge. And she just does it so well. So this is, if you need to get ramped up very quickly, I highly recommend that video from Lisa. But based on the numbers, probably everybody who has watched it around the world. But keep them coming.
Yeah,
we love them.
True. Yeah, very good job. And also another piece of content that we've been waiting for is the PowerCat team has now finally released the Power Automate Cloud Flow Best Practices white paper. It is a lifesaver. Anyone, let me just put this out right here and now. This includes all of you guys who I work with, all of my colleagues, all the Entra people, all the Red Cross people, everyone. If you want to do Power Automate and I'm anywhere remotely close to you, you read this white paper. Done. Because it's so short and concise and yes. Yes.
Yeah.
If we all follow that best practice, it will be so much simpler.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. There was a white paper a few years ago when it was still Microsoft Flow. I know David Yak and Jerry Weinstock had contributed to that. And these white papers sometimes are just so good to have on your desktop, this PDF you can go through and you learn. And of course, Power Automate changes on a daily basis, right? We've seen that, even this week, some surprises. So yeah, I definitely, looking forward to actually getting that downloaded and going through it, because
yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, I was just about to say, because actually that white paper that existed, when we started this project and we went through, also all of us who's going to do all the Power Automate Cloud Flow developers, we got together and we talked about best practices and naming conventions and how to do error handling and conditions and all of these things that you need to kind of be in a bit of alignment on before you get started. And we wanted to reference that document, but none of us could find it. So we were scrambling, and then Pierre asked me, "But do you have the link?" And I'm like, "Yes, I have the link." And then I put on my bookmark, and no, it's gone. And where is it? And then you went looking, and you're like, "I can't find it either. What's going on?" So that's what I meant with this. We've been waiting for this edition to come out, and for someone to kind of pick up that mantle a bit, because this is something I absolutely recommend all of you. If you're going to do work with Power Automate, sit down and agree on the rules. And it doesn't give you the it's not ultimatum, right? It's not this is right or wrong, but these are the things to consider in terms of namespacing. If we were to follow all the rules of namespacing, the names would be too big. But yeah, so agree. That's what I'm saying. Look at the alternatives and agree on the system and have a strategy in place and write it down and have this as a live thing in your development practice. That's what I'm asking or saying. Yeah. Okay. And you found something on and I said, and I saw this in the notes, MDAs? What's MDAs? And you went, model-driven apps.
Model-driven apps.
Model-driven apps. It's like, yeah. All of this, this shortening thing.
Yeah. So data workspace. So probably most of you who have used Power Platform, gone into make.powerapps.com and seen this little touch button in the corner, turn on the new data workspace experience. And this has been out for a few months, where you can go into Copilot and you can describe your data model. I need to make a real estate system that has listings and bookings and you put it in, and then generate this data model with the boxes and the lines and all that kind of stuff. And you can go in and adjust that. And then there's this little button that says generate an app. So you click on the generate an app and it generates a Canvas app, which, I mean, yes, Canvas apps are cool, but to me, that was really limiting, because a lot of the enterprise projects that I've worked on and you worked on, at the end of the day, and I apologize, Canvas apps people, model-driven apps, or that extension on Dynamics 365, really is the core for these enterprise projects, especially if you're working with a lot of data and things like that. Don't get me wrong, Canvas app, and of course, using that technology for custom pages is a great supporting character. Definitely helps out, but to have your core built around Canvas apps for especially data-rich applications, I like to think model-driven apps is a much better approach. Again, my opinion depends on the situation. So this was really cool, because now when you click on generate an app, there's a little drop down there, and you could pick either a Canvas app or a model-driven app. And you create the model-driven app, and it brings up the model-driven app designer with all of those tables already listed, the forms and the views and everything like that. So again, this is, to me, we were talking about last time about AI, doing the things we like and the things we don't like. Creating table, like I like doing data modeling, but it's also a little bit tedious at times when we start creating all the fields and the tables and doing all that. This is a way you can, this is a true Copilot, I think, experience where you can kind of describe what you're trying to do, and it'll kind of generate that with you, and you can kind of work with it, still be creative, but use the tools to speed the whole process up. Now, it says it's GA. GA means it's supported, but it is still missing some very key features. So this is where I get critical on this. First off, I can't pull in existing tables. So if I want to build something, usually I have it linked to the contact table, the account table, or sometimes the activity tables. I can't bring those tables into the Canvas and link those in. I find that very limiting. So that's first thing. Now, when I've gone through, if I've gone through and I built, added the forms added the forms to tables and linked them all up, got it to a point, and I create the app, there's no way I can go back later and make adjustments. Well, I can, but I have to go through the classic, the table designers and add those fields. I can't. I would love to be able just to select a group of fields and say, open these up in the designer, and then I can actually get that ERD diagram and begin to do that.
Back up. Yeah.
Very
or
much
create
like
ERD diagram from, like you said, go the other way around. Because how often do we have to, and then we could use that ERD diagram in our documentation.
Yep. Very much like I used to be able to do an Access 97, but that's neither here nor there. So anyways, definitely keep your eye out, because I did reach out to the team, and there are new features coming. I believe some of the stuff was shown at PPCC. So this is all sort of part and parcels to this is how I like Copilot. Yes, help me work on the tedious stuff as I'm being creative. That is a good blend. That's where I want AI and these Copilots to go. Don't take it over for me. Don't take the, it's not going to, I know it's not going to take my job, but don't take the fun part out of my job either. Help me doing the fun part of the job. And we can move forward with that. So that was, that's news on that one.
Yeah, and I actually tried it yesterday because I'm building a POC for a customer meeting tomorrow. I wanted a quick and dirty data model with an event registration tied to the contact, and you have that many-to-many relationship in between where I wanted a role and a few other fields. I just thought, okay, because now if I go into solution, I choose table and add new. The first button is actually pulling you into the ERD diagram kind of experience, and not that. So if you want a table, a normal table create experience that we're used to, you have to go table advanced settings or something, settings or something like that. So I, by accident, kind of ended up in that Copilot experience, and I asked it to, create me an event table with event registration, be linked to the contact, and then it did. But contact ID is a text field.
I know, yeah.
And then I go, come on, it's Dataverse. Contact is a default standard table. You should understand. And when I say link to the contact table, that already exists, first of all, because I say link to, not create. So go look for it. And if you were to go look for it, then you would find it, or you should know that it exists. You should have that context. The Copilot should have that context of the Dataverse standard tables in there, I think, in my view. So there's some of those kind of bits and pieces that I was missing and that I had to go in and change. But I did stick with the tables I created. I just had to do my alterations. And actually, because I created it from the solution, it had the right prefix. That I was very happy to see. It created it in the context of the solution with the right publisher. So yes, finally. So that's good.
Yeah. And I did notice that if you have your preferred solution set, what you do, that set preferred solution, even if you go directly in the Copilot, describe your situation, it will create those tables with the right, in the right solution with the right prefix as well. So
that's perfect. Okay.
Just be mindful of that you have, I love that, the new preferred solution, any project I'm on now, that is the very first thing I do. I create my solution and I set it to preferred solution. So I don't have to worry about missing my asset and things like that.
That's very good. And also, I wanted to mention something that is not in the show notes, but I saw April Dunnam paste a video on LinkedIn somewhere, small tips and updates for Power Platform, Power Apps. And you now have the ability in a Power App, a Canvas app, to add a model-driven app view. It's one of the standard tables, the templates that you can add, and that's pretty cool. So kind of going back to what you were saying, that you can't use a Canvas app as a model-driven app, but actually now, they're kind of blurring the lines between the two. So it's very interesting to see how powerful that's going to be compared, because of course it cannot be even close to as powerful as a model-driven app can be. But maybe the look and feel and the view, it can be somewhat similar because it's a very good view for handling lots of data. Before we close out, I need to mention this podcast comes out on Wednesday, and on Friday in Aberdeen at Scottish Summit, directly after the keynote, I'm hosting a talk show with none other than Scott Hanselman, Donna Sarkar, and Scott Giroux. And I'm so nervous and so excited at the same time. It's going to be 90 minutes. We're going to have a panel discussion. We're going to have an Ask Me Anything. So if you have any questions on AI, Copilot, or Pro Code, or Low Code, or anything, because these three are Pro Coders by training. They come from the Pro Code world, but they've all embraced AI. So this is your chance to get your question answered. I hope you bring your tough questions and you really give it to these people. And I'm going to try to manage it as good as I can and make a fun talk show out of it. So we'll see. But I'm super excited about it.
All right. That's, I think, a wrap for all the news and updates this week. We are back again October 30th, day before Halloween. So maybe we have to do a Halloween special episode. I don't know. We'll talk about that.
You promised too much. We'll see. I'm going to dress up this week for the drag thing at Scottish Summit. I think I'm going to be dressed up, fatigued for the next month or so. So we'll see. But maybe. All right. Great talking to you. Love doing the podcast with you as always. And to all the listeners, have an amazing week. We love you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening. And if you like this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues in the community. Make sure to leave a rating and review of your favorite streaming service, and makes it easier for others to find us. Follow us on the social media platforms and make sure you don't miss an episode. Thanks for listening to the Power Platform Boost podcast with your hosts Ulrika Åkerbeck and Nick Dolman, and see you next time for your timely boost of Power Platform news.